farm things. We drinking farm things.
Hey, Sam.
Oh, hey, Bev. What you drinking over there?
I'm drinking a Central State Brewing Halderschlag.
Alderschlag.
Halderschlag. I think it means throat punch in German, but
Oh, that's
don't quote me
right.
on that.
I think that's what he told us when we were there.
Oh, so if that is not correct, he was just making it up. Not my fault.
Or we're just making it up.
Not his fault. Hashtag not his fault. What are you drinking over there?
I am drinking another cider from Blake's Hard Cider, and it's called El Chavo, and it is a cider infused with habanero and mango.
Ooh, that sounds delicious.
So it's got a little heat to it. Yeah, it is really good. I had it for the first time when I did Painting with a Twist in East Lansing as like a little work outing. And I was like, oh my God, this is so good. It's kind of got like a little margarita vibe. You know, if you get not like just a regular lime margarita, but if you get like something with a little heat, like a jalapeno one.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of what it reminds me of. So I'm a fan.
Sounds delish. Yeah, I realized I didn't really describe my beer very well. All I said was throat punch. That doesn't mean anything to anybody.
That could be description enough, though.
That's true. But this is a tart and refreshing Berliner Weiss that's complemented perfectly by the addition of fresh Meyer lemons for a clean and piney finish. And I agree. It's very lemony.
Clean, piney, like, is it like Pine Sol?
Kind of. No, just kidding.
No. No wonder it would throat punch you.
Now that you say it. No, it's just very, very lemony. In fact, this would be an amazing beer to have with a giant slice of blueberry pie.
Ooh.
Because it would be like the blueberry and the lemon. So you'd have like the nice sweet and then like the really tart. I'm all into pairings at the moment.
Ugh, that sounds delicious.
Life's too short to not drink good things that go with your food.
Yes. Amen to that.
And welcome to We Drink and We Farm Things.
That's Bev over there.
And that's Sam over there.
And this is the Farm Comedy Podcast that is an adult happy hour for your ears.
We drink adult beverages, talk about the ups and downs of farming things, and give zero clucks about not having the perfect farm life.
That's right. We want to create a community for farmers, whether you have a hobby-sized farm or a huge farm, to come listen and feel like you're not so alone in this farm thing.
We keep it real with you and find humor in the mistakes we make, the new knowledge we gain, and sometimes we go off on tangents that are non-farming related.
And speaking of tangents, sometimes we cut those out of the podcast and stick them up on Patreon. And if you're a Patreon peep, those outtakes are exclusively for you. So go to patreon.com/drinkandfarm to check out all your different options for signing up to become a Patreon peep, starting at $2. And we also have other fun exclusive things up there for you to check out as well.
Yeah, like cheers to our drink sponsor, which is Montana Coombs of @Thimbleworks. Thanks for sponsoring our drinks, lady.
Yes. And if you go to thimbleworks.co and use code drinkandfarm at checkout, you get 10% off your order. She's got all kinds of stuff up there. Drinkware, clothes, hen saddles, which I had to explain hen saddle to somebody this week. So what that is like a little, it's almost like a cape. Almost, depending on what kind you get for your hen.
Super chicken.
Yes, that might be a little well loved by the rooster and maybe lost some of her feathers on her back. That's a great way to shield the rooster's spurs and claws from her back so she can regrow those feathers. So go check all those out.
Can somebody make a shin saddle for me to like protect me from being flogged to death by the roosters? Because that'd be great. Thanks.
To carry around a big stick. That's what I do. A stick or a shovel, and then make eye contact and say no. That's what I do.
You should have seen it. I'm gonna go off on a little tangent, but it's a farming tangent, so it's gonna be totally fine.
We'll keep it in here.
Yeah, it'll stay. It'll stay in the episode. I was out there helping Herc with his, man issues that he's been having. And the rooster sneaks up behind me and I turn around and I catch him before he does it. And I'm looking him in the eye. I've stomped a foot forward. So I'm in an aggressive stance and I'm leaned forward, like with both of my hands out in front of me to like make myself look as big and like as intimidating as possible. And I'm like, no, don't do it. He looks at me and he does it. So then I start screaming and I'm like, no, no. My husband's on the deck and I'm kicking out my feet, like totally missing him. And he's like, you need some help out there, honey? And I'm like, no, but the rooster just flogged me and I'm wearing shorts. He's like, well, don't wear shorts out there. But my screeching of no was really awesome.
Yeah, sometimes it takes them a few times to learn, and sometimes they just never do. Like with Lance at this point, we have established, like, I have eyes in the back of my head and he knows it.
Yeah.
But like my stepson was here last weekend and he was like not doing the big stance, but he was locking eyes with Lance and Lance would just beeline for him. And then I had the hose in my hand, so I just squirt Lance with the hose and he'd stop. But every time he would try to go to the porch, Lance would go after him. So eventually I had to like walk my stepson to the porch and up the stairs so Lance would leave him alone. Because they don't, well, and he's, as a kid made the mistake of coming at him too aggressively back. So now Lance sees him as like his adversary and not like somebody that's above him. So I think that's part of the issue. But it's hard when they're here only every other weekend for them to truly learn how to know those situations. And chickens sense fear. I swear they do.
They really do. And, my kids are here all the time. And I just discovered that one of them was skipping felling the chicken feeder because they were scared of Stephen Remorse. Luckily, the chicken's free range. They're fine. They're getting plenty of food. Yeah. So they weren't like starving or anything. But still, I was so mad. And he's like, but I'm scared of the rooster. And I'm like, you're wearing boots that go up over your knees. Like, if he goes after you, I'm like, wear jeans and boots.
Right.
You're fine. Like, you're so much bigger than him. Like, and if you accidentally kick him too hard, it was kind of his fault. So,
right. And, he's doing the right things with wearing the right clothes. And it's just don't turn your back.
Yeah.
And maybe get him a stick to carry.
That's actually not a bad idea. I think I'll give him a pool noodle. We got that recommendation.
See, there you go.
From Lindsay over at Chickens Matter, because a pool noodle is soft, but it's also rigid enough that you can make him keep your distance from you, but it's also not so hard that you accidentally get a little overzealous and regret it later.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm going to stop at the dollar store and get him one of those. Thanks for the reminder.
Something to keep between you and the rooster. Sometimes that's enough. Like, sometimes I go in with a snow shovel into the coop to open the door, and that is enough because it's so big that they just kind of stay back. They don't want to kick that, but they'll kick me. Jerks.
Why do we have roosters again? Oh, yeah, because we like chicks.
Yeah, I know. And I just had like 5 hatch under a silky, so I'm like, you better all be hens, please. For the love of God, all be hens.
We need to develop some sort of dance you can do around the eggs to make them all hens.
Oh, yeah.
That would, yeah.
Well, I'm sure hoping the hens just like project all their good juju onto the eggs when they're sitting on them, knowing that we already have way too many roosters. That they just know we need to grow that hen population.
They're like, we're tired of being harassed. We're going to make all these ladies.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, I love it. But you have some follow-up this week.
I do. I finally got all the parts of my omelet coop and put it together last weekend when it was hot. It probably took me like a little over 2.5 hours to do it all by myself, but I took a lot of breaks in between, so I don't know exactly how long it took me to put it together. I will say the actual coop part was very, very easy to put together. I did not enjoy putting the run together. It wasn't that difficult. It's just that I am an impatient person and I get frustrated by IKEA's, just pictures and assuming you can interpret the pictures. There was a little bit of that with some words for the run, and I got a little frustrated and built it like just slightly wrong. But it's functional. No. So I was like, screw it. I'm not undoing all this. But it works great. We got 3 hens in there right now that are well loved, as I mentioned when we were talking about hen saddles.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe I should call it the best little whorehouse in Michigan. I'm not sure.
Oh my God. You need to paint that sign and hang it from the outside of that run.
Yes.
That's amazing.
But they're hanging out in there. They have been for about a week, and their feathers are already growing back like really quickly, with the help of just a break from the boys and some grubblies. So thank you to Coop Dreams and Omlet for making my Coop Camp dreams come true. And thank you to the chicken that shit on number 14. So I could win the coop.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so exciting. I can't wait to see more pictures of it. Those omelet coops look really cool and handy. So
yeah, and I was looking on their website and they have like bunny hutches too, which are basically like the chicken one, but a little different on the inside.
Oh, yeah.
So I might have to invest in something like that later for all the bunnies because they keep multiplying. So
they do what rabbits do.
They do what rabbits do.
It's a little hard to stop them from them.
Speaking of Coop Dreams, I know you have an update as well.
Oh, I do. So the Coop Dreams hatching eggs are currently pipping.
Yay!
Like as we speak. I can't believe it's been 3 weeks since we got back from Coop Camp, first of all.
I know.
It kind of feels like it's flown by. I don't know what happened to June, but by June, hello July.
Yeah.
And so there's 4 eggs currently pipping. We had 12 eggs total. One of them got smashed a little by the automatic egg turner. And that egg I ended up throwing out, even though I had tried to repair it. Because when I was candling it, it didn't make any development movements whatsoever. I'm like, I don't want this leaching or seeping or exploding in here. So I'm just going to check this one. But most of the eggs were really like opaque shell, so I couldn't see in them. So I have tons of mysteries that I have no idea whether or not they started developing or not. But 4 out of 11 are currently pipping. So I feel good about that hatch rate if all 4 of those hatch, even if no one else does. Just because I was talking to Sam earlier and I realized that when I drove them home, I had left them on the floorboard underneath the driver's side seat, and I forgot how rough Indiana's roads were. So they were kind of getting like vibrated all the way to the Ohio state line, which probably wasn't super great for them. They might could have used a little more cushion.
Yeah.
Lesson learned on that one.
But 4 is pretty good for any kind of egg that's not in your backyard that is traveling.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. And it was really fun. They've been kind of just doing their own thing. Like I check it to make sure that the humidity is right and the temperature's right. And I open it up twice a day to just turn them. But other than that, I've only candled them twice. And I've been basically ignoring them. So, I mean, I'm feeling good about that hatch rate, regardless of Indiana roads or whatever. Because I just June totally got away from me. I really should have been obsessing over those eggs. But, with all of Herc stuff and traveling and.
Yeah, you went on vacation. So somebody else was responsible for taking care of those too.
That's right. For 5 whole days out of 21, which is actually almost a third.
Yeah.
No, it's a quarter. It's a quarter of the time. So, yeah. And my mother-in-law said that the kids really took responsibility of that, which made me feel good.
Good.
But I'm hoping that they wait to hatch until tomorrow because I realize I don't have chick food or pine bedding. So I need a store to open.
The good thing with that is that they're good for 3 days on the food front. So you at least got that covered because they're still absorbing that egg yolk. Yeah.
And I can always put them in their little, what's it called? I have a a trough, like one of those big water troughs for them.
Oh, yeah.
So I can just cover the floor with some paper towels and put some water in there, and they'll be good to go for several days as long as they've got a heat source and I keep it clean.
Yes.
Good. So I'll keep everybody updated. I'll post. Well, I mean, by the time this posts, obviously you'll know how many hatched. But oh, the problems with not being live, I suppose.
Whatever. After reading a clickbait article about how we'll all be eating insects by 2030, cousins Sean and Patrick did the not so obvious thing. They ordered 700 black soldier fly grubs to raise in their laundry room. As their first generation of grubs wiggled into the world, Grubbly Farms was born.
When Grubbly Farms introduced black soldier fly grubs, aka Grubblies, to the backyard chickens of America, the protein-packed, calcium-rich super snacks had flocks clucking with enthusiasm from coast to coast.
Grubbly Farms provides a nutritious treat to your flock, and what they're doing actually helps the environment with their mission of sustainability. Did you know that every pound of Grubblies purchased means that 10 pounds of food waste is diverted from landfills, and that offsets 7 pounds of carbon dioxide? How amazing is that?
That is so amazing. Mm-hmm. When you buy Grubblies, you're not only keeping your flock healthy and happy, you're also helping the environment. And that's what we call a win-win situation. So head over to grubblyfarms.com and use the code FARM15 to get 15% off your first order.
So, how are Herc's balls, or lack of balls?
Yeah. Herc has finally had his second surgery and he's currently recovering like a champ.
Yay!
I am so relieved. I was just out
bet.
there just a little bit ago, and while it's extremely swollen back there, the stitches are still in place, and
Good.
he's eating and drinking and running and doing all of his normal things. So I'm feeling very, very optimistic about this right at this moment right now.
Good.
So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about what sort of led up to this issue that Herc ended up having, and how I feel like I've sort of grown as a large livestock owner because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping that like we can share this experience and maybe help someone else in the future when they come across an issue like what Herc had, which turns out was incredibly rare.
Oh.
Yeah. So when we'll kind of just backpedal just a tiny bit. If you want to hear a little more about what had started to go wrong, if you missed episode 67, I followed up about the issue that he was starting to have in that episode. So you can listen to that follow up and kind of get completely up to speed if you're just now listening and this is your first episode. But when I felt like the vet that originally performed his gelding surgery didn't take my concerns about, he had some tissue bulging from the surgical site. He wasn't taking it very seriously. So I went and I found a new vet. So I was like, I can't have this when I call and I tell you that my donkey's bleeding. Like, I need you to take me seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be kind of difficult because, you know, they're not a lot of livestock vets, and I live in a really rural area of Ohio. So I understand that the vets are super busy. So if they don't think it's anything super out of the ordinary or weird, they're probably just like, it's okay, it's fine, don't worry about it.
Right.
So I found a vet that was younger and really like took the time to visit with Herc, and I felt like I really connected with her because we were similar. We're around the same age. She really likes livestock animals. She lives right down the road from me. So we were able to like really bond and connect on that level. And she really took time with Herc. She listened to his heart. She showed me how to pick up his front hoof so that I could look under there a little easier without him kicking me. Mm-hmm. And she indeed confirmed that what was going on in his nether regions was not normal. And I'll kind of describe it a little bit more again. It looked like his surgical site had busted open, and there was a ball of tissue like the size of a baseball hanging out of it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Blech.
Yeah, it was super gross. And it wasn't like bleeding or anything, but it was really red and like angry looking. And he did make it bleed a few times because not only can Herc kick himself in the balls, but when he's rolling over and dust bathing, he can bite himself down there too.
Oh, and if it's irritating him, then
Yeah,
that might be his go-to.
exactly. He's on his back. He's biting at it. So like one time he ran up to me, had like blood all over his face. I was like, ew, what's going on? And he turned around and I was like, oh, dang it, Herc, leave that alone.
Get a donkey, they said. It'll be fun, they said.
Right. Donkeys are so great. You guys should totally get one too.
I'm going to tell my husband to skip this episode.
Yeah, no, don't listen. If somebody in your family's on the fence about getting a donkey, this probably isn't the best episode. But it has a happy ending. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
I totally spoiled it by saying that he was recovering, but I spoiled it in a good way because
Yeah, I'm glad it's not like Herc died. Yeah. Yeah, glad that's not the case.
If that had happened, we probably would have had to wait to record this episode just a little bit, just because it'd be really hard to talk about.
Be too raw. Yeah.
Yeah, like super raw.
Like his lack of balls.
Right, yeah, exactly. So after she came and looked at him, she definitely confirmed that he would very likely need a second surgery to remove whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
So we scheduled the surgery because he needed to be put under general anesthesia again, because he's a donkey and I don't have a whole lot of handling skills with him. So really getting up there and looking at it was impossible. It was nearly impossible because, you know, you got to like spread the skin apart, get up there, really put your face up there, and those legs.
He'll kick you in the face.
He really will. I mean, only if he wants to. But over the course of the week, she went ahead and took the time to consult with some colleagues that she has. She was trained at an equine surgical center in Kentucky. So that's where she did a lot of her like formal internships. Mm-hmm. So I felt, you know, really confident that the people that she was talking to knew what they were doing and were experienced. And so I was really happy to see that she was willing to do that because she is kind of a newer and younger vet. So the odds of her running across something like what Herc had was super slim. And unfortunately, they kind of decided that what was going on with Herc was extremely rare. And so there wasn't a whole lot of agreement between them on what it could possibly be. Mm-hmm. And I found that also. It was really, really difficult to find information on this because it turns out like most of the time geldings just go as expected, which is good.
Right.
That's an excellent thing. But when you have a problem, it can make it extremely difficult to get it treated. So, yeah, I mean, we've all been there. You get an animal on your farm, they get sick. And so we consult the Google and our online forums to sleuth out what we should do next. But like, what the hell are you supposed to do when nothing comes up? It just kind of becomes a situation where we don't know what to do next. Like, what's the right course of action? I don't know. I don't know anything about donkeys either, so that doesn't help.
Right.
It's not like I was already a trained, you know, equine owner that at least had an idea of what a normal donkey was supposed to act like.
Right.
I didn't even have that as a baseline. So, anesthesia has its risks, and the vet and I talked and we decided that we didn't want to put him under until we knew what we were dealing with could be handled at the time that she put him under, because what would have happened was we would have put him under, she would have looked and she'd been like, oh, this can't be taken care of in the field. So we would have had to wake him back up again, put him back, and then schedule to go back, you know, like to a surgical center or somewhere else, and then have him be put under again. Mm-hmm. And general anesthesia is kind of risky.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens all the time, but you don't want to do it unnecessarily. Mm-hmm. I mean, as a human being, I've never been put under general anesthesia, so I have no idea what it feels like.
Yeah. I've been once, but I don't really remember it. And that's kind of the point.
Right? I think that's the idea.
Yeah.
So we had been planning on doing his second surgery in the field, like his gelding was, so that we could avoid having to transport him pre and post surgery, which is ultimately better for his well-being, because if you know anything about donkey anatomy, they have some blood vessels up there near where their testicles are. And those are major arteries. And if they get broken open, the donkey can bleed to death very easily. We talked about that in the episode where we talked about gelding a donkey. So like transporting him for this kind of a surgery wasn't really ideal. But like also, well, another thing about operating in the field is you're more prone to infection because, you know, you're doing surgery in the grass.
Right. It's
And
not
my
sterile.
chicken shit all over that grass.
Yeah.
No, not sterile at all. So if you have like a big wound, you know, some bacteria and stuff can get in there. There's sprays and there's ways to clean the area and whatnot to clean it out to try to prevent some of that. But obviously an operating room is going to be so much more sterile than my grass. I mean, that's just like a no-brainer. Yeah, so if what we were dealing with was like super serious, surgery in an operating theater would be more ideal, even if we had to board him or, you know, run the risk of having an issue when we trailered him back. We were kind of in like a no-win situation, like, because we didn't know what we were dealing with. It was just like, it was so unknown. We're like, do we spend the extra money to send him to this operating theater and then find out it's something really like benign that wasn't a big deal? Or do we open him up in the field and find out it is a big deal and then we regret it later and we're kicking ourselves because we made the wrong decision? So it's kind of like a no-win. But the possibilities that we had gathered from so much research and just talking to people was that it could be a herniation, which very, very, very rarely parts of the intestines will break through the muscle wall and come through the incision site of the gelding. And that can cause a serious infection and damage to their organs. So if it was a herniation, like it needed to be taken care of immediately. It had already been weeks. So we were really hoping it wasn't that. Another idea that we had was that it could be something called omentum, which omentum is actually a really large organ, and humans have omentum also. It's an apron-like expanse of fatty tissue that covers the stomach and liver and other intestines. And what can happen is the surgical site is opened up and that apron, just like a tiny bit, kind of falls out. And, you know, they're donkeys, they're kicking at it, they're biting at it, they're rolling it around, and then more and more is falling out. So that was one of the possibilities. And another possibility that we came up with was that his vas deferens was too long. And I actually looked up how to pronounce that because I didn't want to say it wrong. Because the vas deferens, if you're not familiar with it, it's the organ that connects the testicles to the urethra so that mature sperm can travel through it. And sometimes during gelding surgery, that has to be clipped back and shortened to prevent it from hanging out. I have to be really immature for a second and point out that we're talking about the vas deferens on episode 69. You're welcome.
You would. You planned that, didn't you?
I did. I mean, how could I not point out it was episode 69? I'm like a 12-year-old.
That is why you wanted to switch topics and talk about this, because you're like, episode 69. I knew it.
Yep. And so one of the things that happened while we were talking about all these possibilities was this new vet really impressed me because she called me and she's like, hey, Bev, I've never seen anything like this and I have no idea what we're dealing with. So I feel really uncomfortable with opening him up and not knowing what we're getting into. She's like, I really think it's best that we find another vet that may have possibly run across one of these issues that we've discovered and talked about. Or take him to the surgical site. And I just loved that because, you know, we kind of live in a world where people can overstate what their abilities are. And it just felt really refreshing that she was just like, I'm not comfortable with this. Let's like time out.
Right.
Let's stop.
Right.
So I felt really good about the advice that I had gotten from her.
So what did you do?
Yeah. So I had managed to get a picture of it And I got to figure out how to share these pictures that I took with people. I'm thinking about writing a blog post and just throwing it up on my Rust Roost blog, even though I haven't blogged there in forever. Because I really think that these pictures would be super helpful for people that want to see them. But as you can imagine, they're super disgusting. So they're not exactly... I don't want people to have to see them on Instagram if they don't want to. So I think I'm going to do that, and I'll link to that in the show notes if I end up doing it, or I'll shout it out later if I decide to do it. So if anybody wants to see it, they can. And since I had gotten a picture of it, Jared and I talked, and we decided to go ahead and call the vet that had done the original gelding surgery, because he was familiar with Herc, so he knew what he was getting into. Mm-hmm. And he knew if anything had maybe possibly like not gone perfectly during it, he would have an idea of what it could possibly be. So I sent him that picture, and he like called me that day and was like, that is not normal. It is not supposed to look like that. We'll do surgery on him tomorrow to figure out what it is. And I was so relieved. I was like, oh, this is going to be over with. Thank goodness. But also I was a little concerned, because I was like, this must be serious. So he wants to do it the next day. Like, right. It's a Saturday. Right. Like, this can't possibly be good. But I really learned a valuable lesson during this, because I realized that I have not been like advocating clearly for Herc in this issue, because I try really hard not to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Like hysterical when something's going wrong.
A helicopter donk mom.
Yeah, exactly. Because I want people to take me seriously when serious things happen. So I try really hard not to overblow it. But like when I truly am concerned about something being serious, like I need to be more direct and clear and forceful, that I think somebody really needs to look at this, rather than just, you know, like listening to them downplay it and be like, no, it's not a big deal. Because like, I mean, we live in sort of a tough internet era. You can Google anything and come back. Like every symptom that you Google means that everything is dying.
Right.
So everyone's always all worked up every time something is going wrong. And like as medical professionals, and this is totally speculation corner, they could be sort of trying to combat that by giving not like a diagnosis, but giving you the idea that whatever it is probably the most probable and also like lesser serious scenario, because they don't want to work you up for no reason, because they haven't seen you or seen your animal, so they're not positive on what it is. So like automatically jumping to the worst conclusion isn't good for anybody. Mm-hmm. Like it's not very likely that it's the worst situation out there, right?
Right. Yeah, and I guess just be more like me.
Be more like you. What are you like?
Yeah. Like, okay, so here's the vet. Oh, Bev, everything's fine. His balls or lack of balls are fine. And you go, no, what I'm seeing here is not fine. And I need you to come out here to take a look at it, because I can't get a picture of it because he's going to kick me in the face. So I need you to come out here, or I'm going to find another vet. Period.
Yeah, and I probably need to be better at being more direct with people about
it's
what I
hard though. I can sit here and say that, but to you right now and just drink my fancy cider and but it's hard anytime I have to be like that, even at work. Like my palms are sweaty, my heart is pounding because it doesn't feel good. But advocating for yourself does kind of stimulate that reaction sometimes, no matter what it's for. Any kind of confrontation, even if you are being respectful but firm, can cause that reaction in your body and it doesn't feel good, and it might make you think you're doing something wrong. So it's something that takes practice, and that is not easy even after you have lots of practice. But I'm glad that you've kind of learned that through this experience, that you got to put your foot down sometimes and trust your gut instinct, because, you know, with farm animals, like you said, you learn as you go. Sometimes you don't know enough, or you know just enough to get into trouble. And you have to know that line of, okay, I don't know enough at this point. I can't find anything, but this is really worrying me. So it is worth advocating for, not just yourself, but your animal.
Yeah, and like doing that advocating, it really it made me feel like I was gonna physically vomit. That was how I felt while I was talking to people, because I'm like, if I'm wrong, everyone's gonna think that I'm hysterical and they're never gonna believe me when something really wrong happens. And so like all those scenarios just like kind of play through my head. But also I think one of the things that like as a community too we can do to kind of combat that feeling is like, have you ever been in a chicken group and somebody's like, oh, my chicken's limping, what's happening? And everybody's like, Merrick's, it's Merrick's. You're like, hold on a second. There's like 1,000 reasons why a chicken could be limping. So like, why do we work ourselves up into a frenzy like that? We have to be more careful.
If you Google it, it's Merrick's.
Right?
I was like, oh, Jesus. No, it's probably really not, but it's something you should consider. But have you checked the bottom of the foot? It's probably more likely bumblefoot at this point.
Right? Yeah. So I think it's like, we kind of do it to each other too. The internet does it to us and we do it to each other. And it's kind of giving me like to be more mindful and remind people to slow down and check all the possibilities first. Like that wouldn't have necessarily worked in Herc's case because it was so rare. But
yeah,
I think there's a lot of cases where it does work. And I've totally worked myself up into that Merrick's frenzy and then felt like an idiot. So I'm like, I'm so ridiculous sometimes.
Right. But you also have to give yourself the grace to learn, right? So yes, we might work ourselves up into a Merrick's frenzy, but learn from that frenzy. And then it's not for nothing.
Yeah, that's true. It gives us a stepping stone to what our next experience with that kind of a situation could possibly feel like. Like you're not going to get it right the second time or maybe even the third time. But
and it's all about just taking it easy on yourself, being open to learning and giving zero clucks what others think about your learning process too.
That's true. And that is seriously, it's so much easier said than done because there is a lot of just like, I think like things are thrown out just in passing, in like in a casual way, but it can really stab someone like in the heart that's just experienced something similar. And you're like, and then those evil gremlins in your head start telling you what a failure you are and how ridiculous you are. And then you're like, oh no, maybe I shouldn't be doing any of this. And you're like, no, that's not right. You just made a mistake and it's okay to move forward.
Yes.
It's okay to be wrong. But part of being wrong is admitting it when you're wrong and trying to do better next time, I guess.
Yeah. And that's okay because we're all human. We only get this to go on this trip once.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a little bumpy.
Right. I mean, if it wasn't bumpy, would it be any fun?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Because you'd have no baseline of what's really good or really bad.
Oh, that's true. Good point.
I'm full of the good points today.
You really are. Well, and my biggest takeaway from this was just to try to be more organized with my thoughts and more clear when I think that somebody needs something, whether it's myself or my kids or my animals. Like, I when I get nervous, I talk a lot and really fast, and it can kind of muddle what the issue could possibly be. So bullet point lists are really good for me with just a handful of words, because then it keeps me on topic and I can just be clear, factual, not overly emotional, and that helps get my communication across. Communication is really difficult. I'm 35 years old. I still don't know how to communicate clearly.
Well, it's hard. And in those skills that you just talked about are transferable to anything.
So Herc surgery was yesterday, and I already spoiled that he was recovering well. And it turns out that the tissue hanging out of his body was a hunk of scar tissue that looked like half of a bratwurst.
Ew.
It was so gross.
Ew.
Like beyond gross.
Yeah.
And the surgery ended up being kind of stressful. But because we had been handling him a lot, it was smoother than his gelding surgery. So I was super pleased about that. Good. And removing the tissue took a lot of cutting. So we were exhausted by the end of it because we had to hold him down. And even with the general anesthetic and the local pain relief, it kind of seemed like either it was still causing pain or he was just really concerned that there were 3 people on top of him cutting at his man region.
And I imagine too, it's like a pressure thing. Like
Oh,
it's gotta
yeah.
feel like a lot of pressure. That's like when I got the goats, when I got their cut and pull done on their little goat balls. I think that was mostly pressure. And they were like, why is mom holding me this way?
Yeah, they're like, we're not used to being so aggressively hugged.
Right, exactly. Or not from this angle anyway.
Yeah. Something must be wrong. This is terrible. But this is like a great segue into like, have we really talked about like how hands-on you have to be in your animal's health when you are a livestock owner? Mm-hmm. Like, you don't just get to drop your donkey or your goat off at the vet and they come back all sleepy with a cone on their head. Like, happy to see you.
Right.
When they need to be gelded or whatever. Like, you got to be the one holding the rope that's keeping the kicking hoof from hitting the vet in the face, which is a lot of trust, by the way. I'm kind of shocked that the vet gives me that kind of trust.
Yeah, for sure.
Which means that I must exude much more confidence than I feel like I do on the inside. So that's good. I'll take it. And the surgery was just kind of a little scary because I was keeping a really close eye on his breathing and I was continuing to will him to keep breathing because there was a lot of blood with having to remove that much tissue. I was watching and I was like, oh, this doesn't feel good. And the vet seemed a little stressed, but he was good. He was a pro. I was really glad I called him again. There was a reason why he did his first gelding surgery. I just needed to be reminded of it. And it was really good, though, because 5 minutes after the last suture was done, he was up. And within like 20 or 30 minutes, he was back in with his goats. So he just like bounced back. He's a trooper.
What a good little donk.
He is. But I thought it was really good to share this because even though I know that what Herc went through was really rare, there are some people out there that are just interested in it because they're interested in Herc. But also, if you know of somebody that's having an issue with their donkey gelding, maybe this might help give them some information that they've been looking for. Because, I mean, my vet was like, I've gelded hundreds and hundreds of donkeys and I've never seen anything like this. We have no idea why it happened. So,
yeah.
Totally unexplained.
Right. Stuff happens.
Yeah, it does, especially on a farm. You could just say shit happens because there's lots of shit all over the place here and sometimes just shitty things happen.
Oh, man. I'm still waiting for you to get some ducks and geese.
Oh, then I can have rocketing shit happen.
Well, my duck, Rocket, who is a girl, she is sitting on a huge clutch of eggs right now. So I could bring you some ducks.
Oh, there we go.
Then you can have ducks on your farm, so you can really have shit everywhere.
Well, now it's time for a We Can't Even corner.
Yes. So what is your We Can't Even this week?
Okay, I was gonna let you go first since I've talked so much, but I can get mine out of the way. If you'd
That would
rather.
mean I'd have to scroll a lot, so I'll let you go first because I don't know what this is and I want to know.
Okay, so a Japanese zoo escape drill went viral on the internet this week, and it was kind of hilarious. So I found all of this at boredpanda.com because if you're really bored, Bored Panda is a good place to go. Especially if you want to be entertained or you're looking for things to can't even about like I was at 11 o'clock this morning. Turns out the only thing I couldn't even about was Herc. So I had to find something and I saw this. And I was like, this is so freaking hilarious.
Perfect.
So we've all been through various emergency drills, right? So whether that's a fire drill at work or like a flight attendant is waving their hands around and going through all the things that could go wrong mid-flight. It turns out that there are other types of drills that are done out there, and one of them is a drill for when zoo animals escape, which is just insane. I didn't realize they had to practice that.
I mean, it's probably a good idea.
It does. And now that I think about it, I totally get it because they're right. Like we plan for all sorts of other drills, so why not? All of the cages break and the zoo animals get out. So this Japanese zoo was performing a lion escape zoo, and it totally made sense to have a human dressed up as a lion to do the drill. So the footage shows a person pretending to be an escaped lion wandering around the zoo, most likely looking for prey. And the fake lion was observed by the real lion inhabitants of the zoo. And the real lions were looking at this fake lion like, what in the world is happening out there? And the Twitterverse, like, really responded to this video. There'll be a link to this in the show notes, so you guys can go watch it if you haven't seen it yet. But the Twitterverse were the real stars of the show. This user at law_Schwab said, I worked in a zoo and I can confirm that they do these drills exactly like this. And one time they did a rhino drill and very slowly drove a golf cart around with a rhino label on it. I'm just picturing this golf cart with like a sign, like a poster board sign in Sharpie that just says rhino.
At my work, when we did a fire drill, somebody had a sign that said, I am the fire. It was like standing in the hallway. So you have to go the different way.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I was like, really? I'm just trying to go outside. I know all the exits, but fine. You're the fire. Woo! All right.
And this other tweeter, that's what I call them, a tweeter person, so, called Architect2RA said, they've just taught the lions their emergency plan. I'm not sure that's the smartest move.
That's true.
It's
Now
so
the
true.
lions know where else to go.
But the video of the dude running around the zoo in the lion costume while the animals are staring at him is quite something to see. I really enjoyed it. It made my morning. So go check that out if you haven't yet.
I'm sure the employee just had the best day doing that.
I mean, I'd like to get paid to just run around in a lion suit, please and thank you.
There are worse jobs you could have.
Yeah, there are.
Mm-hmm.
So what can't you even about this week?
So I feel like I kind of cheated, but I really connected with this article. Natalie Quist posted this in our Facebook group. And the title of the article is Move Over Goat Yoga. Alaskans now have reindeer yoga. And the article she posted is from npr.org. I'm not going to read the full article, but essentially, these people in Fairbanks, Alaska have a yoga class that is with reindeer. And my first thing is like, well, I hope the reindeer aren't jumping on people like the goats do during goat yoga. It doesn't appear that way, but the reindeer has only done 3 classes, or the reindeer yoga class has only occurred 3 times at this point. And they thought it was a good idea because reindeers kind of can contort themselves in very twisty ways, especially in the springtime when their antlers are growing and they're itchy and they scratch them with the back of the hooves. So you'll see these reindeer going into like really cool, amazing poses. And you're just like, wow, reindeer, they're little yogis at heart. So all the classes start with a little safety talk about like, don't touch the reindeer sensitive antlers because it'll hurt them. And then it goes through like a normal yoga class. The instructor takes the time to point out like really cool reindeer facts, like telling the people in the class to listen because the reindeers make a click when they walk. And that's a ligament connected to 2 different ankle bones, which is unique to both caribou and reindeer. So not only are you doing yoga and hanging out with reindeer, you're learning fun facts. So I think this is something, that I could be down with. So if you want to read the full article and see some fun pictures, we'll link to that NPR article in the show notes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Does the reindeer climb on you while you're doing like downward dog? Because that would be awkward.
I hope not. That would be heavy.
It would be super heavy. So we have a farm story this week.
We do. And I have it pulled up. Would you like me to read it? Or do you want to read it?
I would love it if you told me a story. I want nothing more than to be told a story right now.
Okay. All right. So this is from our friend via Gmail. She emailed us the story, Tina Stevens. And she says, Hi, Sam and Bev. I have a farm-related story that I thought you might enjoy. I don't enjoy running. Well, that makes 2 of us, Tina.
That makes 3 of us.
Unfortunately, I need the exercises, and it's the most effective way for me to get it. Luckily, I found this app called Zombies Run. You run your normal route, and every few minutes it plays a bit of a story. The premise is that you're surviving the zombie apocalypse with a group of others, and your job is to be a runner, where you get sent on missions. On these missions, all kinds of unexpected things happen, but the most important thing that you're running so the zombies don't get you.
So I just want to interject in here really quick. I have used that app. When I used to run on the treadmill at the gym, that was what I ran to. That was my story time. So I love that app. It's super fun. If anybody's out there that wants
hilarious.
to exercise, hasn't used it yet.
She says, although I'm not a fan of zombie movies, I find the story to be quite engaging and it makes running almost fun for me. This morning I went for a run and was very engrossed in the story. I made it back to my house a few minutes before the mission was over, so I decided to just run around my circular drive a few more times to hear the end. It was actually very fitting because in the story, I had to run to the mall to search for a store for supplies and was leaving by running down the parking ramp trying to avoid crawling zombies. Suddenly, in real life, something struck the back of my leg. I screamed out loud, and for a moment, I may have thought I was being attacked by a crawler.
Oh, no.
I spun around, and there was my free-range, silver gray Dorkling rooster about to flog me again. Needless to say, it took quite a while for my heart rate to return back to normal. Cheers, Tina.
Oh my gosh.
Which is hilarious.
That fit in really well with our rooster tangent earlier.
Yeah, and she sent us a little picture too with the little guy behind her looking a little feisty.
We'll have that in the carousel of pictures for this episode.
Yes. So
Yeah.
thank you for sending that farm story. And if others feel so inspired after hearing Tina's story, email us your stories via email, yes, because I already said email, at drinkandfarm@gmail.com, or you can send them via direct message on Instagram.
And now it's housekeeping time.
Housekeeping! And it's field trip time, and the field trip is next week because this drops on Friday, so it's the next Friday. The Naperville Ale Fest is July 13th at Naper Settlement in Naperville, Illinois. The link to the event page where you can buy tickets will be in the show notes. There will be 200 unique craft beers, live music, some of Chicagoland's favorite food trucks, and of course your favorite podcast co-hosts from We Drink and We Farm Things. So if you're going, let us know in the Facebook group or send us an email at drinkandfarm@gmail.com.
And we'll come say hi to you.
We'll try to find you.
Ooh. And take our survey. You can give us anonymous feedback. There's a link to that in the show notes.
And join that Facebook group if you haven't already. And there will be a link to that in the Facebook group too.
And please be sure and review us in all the places. And if you really like us, download the episodes when you listen and hit that subscribe button.
And we've also started loading our previous episodes to YouTube, and we will start dropping some videos in there from our adventures. So go subscribe to that, please and thank you.
And we sell merch. There's links to both of those shops in the show notes, so don't miss out on that awesome, cool things stuff. Yeah.
Buy all the things.
Yes, and support the podcast.
And we're on Instagram, and we have a hashtag. If you use hashtag Drink and Farm on Instagram, anytime you are drinking something you love and farming safely, we like to share those every Tuesday and Thursday. And sometimes we even share those in the stories too. So this is your community. Use the hashtag and find each other. Go team.
Yeah. Go team. And thanks for listening, guys. We love doing these episodes for you.
Yes, we love drinking a beer and talking to each other and recording it for your listening pleasure. And we also like your feedback. I feel like we got a lot of great feedback on the mental health episode, so thank you for that. It really is kind of selfishly validating to me. I don't know how Bev feels, but it makes me feel really good that you guys enjoyed that episode because it was not an easy one to put on.
Yeah, I felt really good about that also because it felt like the message we were trying to get across would possibly reach some people that we were hoping it would. So yeah, it felt very fulfilling to me that people gave us feedback on that episode. So yeah, thanks guys.
Thanks.
And most of all, drink,
farm, and give zero clucks.
Bye guys.
Bye.
We drink things, we farm things, we drink and farm things.